What's going down today? We are going to take a look at a very controversial war in American history, the Mexican-American War. Where we last left off, James K. Polk had acquired Oregon with the treaty with England. They had annexed Texas. Actually, John Tyler did, but Polk really kind of brought that issue up in the election of 1844. And that leaves us to another place that Polk, and especially the supporters of Manifest Destiny, were eager to get their hands on. That is Cali.
I'm going back to Cali. I'm going back to Cali.
California. Now, a couple things about California you should keep in mind. It's part of Mexican territory. The whole Southwest was. And in California, there's a diverse population. California is very far from the United States boundaries in the 1840s, but yet a lot of American settlers had come across along the overland trails into California. And the population of California is a mixture of Mexicans that call themselves Californios. There's a sizable Native American population, and of course, those American settlers who came over in the 1820s and 1830s. And it's kind of similar to Texas because you got so many Americans coming into Mexican territory that you have a problem for Mexico because these Americans are very vocal and they're starting to want greater and greater autonomy. Now, Polk gets elected in 1844. Remember, he runs on a platform that really symbolizes Manifest Destiny because he wants the United States to stretch from the East Coast to the West Coast.
West Side. Who banging on the train?
And he really wants to buy California from Mexico. But there's a problem. The Texas issue. Santa Anna still does not recognize that the United States has annexed Texas. And the relationship between the United States and Mexico is no bueno. So here's what happens. There's also this boundary dispute. And the boundary dispute is this. According to the United States, the boundary between the U.S. and Mexico is the Rio Grande River. For Mexico, it's the Nueces River. And there's this disputed territory right in this area where America says it's theirs and Mexico says it's theirs. Not to mention, there was a growing fear, a lot of similarities to what happened in Texas here, that England,
warning, you are entering a restricted area,
was going to try to buy or seize California for themselves. And they don't want this. And remember the Monroe Doctrine. Hey, colonization is closed. No European presence. If you're not already here, stay the heck out. We can't let this happen. And so Polk wants to make a move. So he sends his boy, John Slidell, to Mexico to offer to buy California for $25 million. And he also wants to kind of sort out this border situation. He wants Mexico to accept the Rio Grande as the southern border of Texas. So John Slidell goes there. He wants to present his case, and Mexico has no interest in selling California because there's two things in life, ladies and gentlemen. Money can't buy love, and it can't buy.
I don't care too much for money. Money can buy me love. Buy me love.
Part of Mexico. John Slidell is rejected. They don't even let him present his case, and Polk's angry. So what you see is, Polk decides he's going to start a war. Now, some historians say he doesn't really try to start the war. Other people say that's what he was itching for a fight. And he sends one of his generals, General Zachary Taylor, into the disputed territory along the Rio Grande River. And while Zachary Taylor and American forces are over in that region, basically what happens is pretty predictable. Mexican forces say, hey, you're on Mexican soil. They attack. And this begins the Mexican-American War. In April of 1846, American forces are attacked by a Mexican cavalry detachment. Something like 16 Americans are killed, and Polk got his war. In fact, he goes before Congress and he says, Mexico has passed the boundary of the United States, has invaded our territory and shed American blood upon the American soil. And Congress overwhelmingly votes for war, but not everyone's really excited about this war. Some, especially Northerners, are suspicious. And one guy you may have may be familiar to you says in Congress, he introduces something called the spot resolution. And he says to Polk, hey.
Why not, man? I'm coming for that number 1 spot. All right.
Abraham Lincoln, at this point, is a Northern Whig congressman, no Republican Party yet. He introduces the famous spot resolution. And he basically says to Polk, hey, okay, fine, if we were attacked on American soil, I'd like to know the exact spot in which blood was shed on our soil. And Northern Whigs are very concerned that the war is an excuse by Southerners to expand slavery. And they largely are the ones who oppose the war. It's seen as unjustified, and we shouldn't fight it. In fact, one Northerner, a Northern Democrat by the name of Wilmot, is going to introduce a Wilmot Proviso. We'll cover that a little bit more closely in another lecture. But basically he said there should be no slavery in any territory acquired from Mexico. Now the war, in terms of wars, is pretty uneventful. It's a small one for the United States. More Americans, something like 13,000 Americans die, but most of those die from disease, not from actual bullets. Zachary Taylor, Old Rough and Ready, as his nickname goes, wins some battles. You have the Battle of Buena Vista over here, and the Mexican army gets routed. In fact, it gets so bad that the United States invades all the way deep into the heart of Mexico. They take Mexico City. It's September of 1847. General Winfield Scott enters with his American forces in the capital of Mexico. And it is really, really bad. In fact, one political cartoon shows the Mexican eagle before the war and the Mexican eagle after the war. And it's a rout. The Mexican army is ill-trained, ill-prepared, and basically what ends up happening is the war ends after 2 years with the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And the treaty is devastating. In February 1848, the American negotiator Nicholas Tris helps get this treaty signed. And from the perspective of the United States, it's great because America's getting bigger.
We're going bigger. It's like so much bigger.
In fact, under the treaty, Mexico gives up its claims to Texas. They accept the Rio Grande as the border between the U.S. and Mexico. And the United States gets California, New Mexico, and the rest of the Southwest. It increases U.S. territory by 1/3. In fact, for Mexico, it is a horrible, horrible treaty because under the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, Mexico loses roughly half of its territory. And this war is going to strain the relationship between the United States and Mexico for many, many years to come. A very controversial war, and also a war with huge consequences. Because now you got all this territory, and the question, is it a new controversy or the return of an old? Because these new territories were brought into the Union, which force the issue of slavery into the center of national politics. Because as these territories become states, are they going to be slave or free? We've seen this story before with Missouri back in 1819, 1820, but this time, the issue of slavery will not go away. We'll cover what happens with the Compromise of 1850 in another lecture. Remember, I love you all. Thank you for watching. Beautiful, beautiful people out there. Hopefully you learned some stuff from American history. And if you haven't done so, subscribe. It's free, and it saves a pony somewhere in the world. Click like on the video, and peace.